Hello world, this is Lisa Friedrichsen, your friend and computer science professor with another short screencast about Access. And in this exciting screencast, we're going to relate tables to make a relational database. If you've been following my series, you know that there's two screencasts that come before this, one that talks about Access in an overview and another that talks about tables specifically. All of my information is in these two textbooks. If you're more concerned about normalizing a database from scratch or fixing problems with an existing database that wasn't normalized correctly, this Concepts of Database Management book is the thing for you. If you already have a healthy relational database and you just need to apply Access in more productive ways, then this Microsoft Illustrated Access 2019 textbook is the book for you. Now, to show you how tables are related, I'm going to use the database out of my Illustrated Microsoft Access 2019 book. It has 4 tables: companies, contacts, industries, and jobs. And in the previous screencast, we talked about how to create tables. And that is that you've got to go into Design View and build your field names, select your data types, and work on field properties to continue to modify each and every field as desired. Very helpful if you think through these things before you start entering your data. But there's one really important aspect of building tables that I didn't speak about. It becomes super important when we're connecting our tables together. And that is that it's a good practice to have each table have a primary key field. A primary key field is a field that contains unique data per record. You might think that company name would be a good primary key field, but we could theoretically have 2 companies with the same name, yet have them be different companies. So in this case, I've added a company ID field with an AutoNumber data type. It simply automatically numbers each record, similar to a check number. And I've set that as my primary key field with the primary key field button and symbol. If we look at that in Datasheet view, we can see our company IDs 1, 2, 4, 17. Let's go ahead and sort them in ascending order on company ID. And we see that we have all these different companies. Now in the beginning, an auto number field will start with 1 and it will be the same number as the number of records. But invariably, we are going to be working with the records and deleting certain records. And so in the jobs table, we jump from 1 to 3 to 4 to 5. And if I go to the end of the data sheet, I'm at auto number 88 because that job ID field is an auto number field and is also set as a primary key field. Sometimes people get upset the number of records and the auto number get off because we've deleted records in our process of updating them. But do not worry about that. The main thing about an auto number primary key field is that that value is unique per record. We really don't care what the value is. We just care that it's unique. It's like a check number. We don't care what the check number is. We just care that it's unique. Do not reuse these auto numbers just like we do not reuse check numbers. We void the check, that number's gone forever. If we delete a record, that number's gone forever. So it helps us with our checks and balances and our audits as well. Before we connect these tables in one-to-many relationships, the first step ought to be going through them and making sure that each one has a valid primary key field. For jobs, it's job ID, it's an auto number field. For companies, it's company ID, it's an auto number field. For contacts, okay, there's no field set as the primary key field, but I do have a field set up here, contact ID, as an automatic number, because it could be multiple first names that are the same, multiple last names that are the same. We're going to go ahead with the contact ID field and set that as the primary key field. And in industries, we only have one field, and that's the industry name. It's a short text data type, and we want each of these industry names to be unique. So the industry field itself was set as the primary key field. Once we have a good primary key field on each of the tables, we're ready for step 2, which is to relate the tables. In Access, we relate our tables going to Database Tools, Relationship Screen, and I've already got 2 valid relationships set up. Let's just pull the contacts table in here as well. I'm going to take this relationship here first and explain how these 2 tables are related. In a relational database, we do not want to repeat any data that we don't have to. However, to relate 2 tables, we do have to have one field that is common to 2 tables in order to join them in a one-to-many relationship. And that is the key phrase that you want to say to yourself over and over and over again. One record in the companies table can be related or connected or linked to many records in the jobs table. And why? Because one company may have several jobs open. If you say it backwards, can one job relate to many companies. No, one specific job is going to be for one company in most situations. So when you try and say the one-to-many relationship backwards, if you get it wrong, it just kind of hurts your brain. But if you get it right, it just kind of makes sense. It just feels good in your head. One company can offer many jobs. When you figure out which table's on the one side and which table's on the many side, then you grab the primary key field of that table on the one side and you duplicate that field in the table on the many side. So for example, company ID number 1 might be related to many jobs. If company ID 1 has 5 job openings, then that company ID 1 value is going to be listed here 5 times in 5 different records for 5 unique different jobs in the jobs table. And that's where the 1 and infinity symbols come from. The 1 symbol always goes with the table on the one side and therefore always goes with the primary key field in the table on the one side. The infinity symbol always goes with a non-primary key field that's called the foreign key field in the table on the many side. Let's look at this relationship. One industry can be related to many companies. That's right. One industry, if I open up the industries table, such as aerospace, can be related to 3 different companies. And that's why when you open up these data sheets, you see these expand symbols to the left of records on the one side of a one-to-many relationship. One industry can be related to many companies. Look, see the expand buttons to the left of the company records as well, because one company can be related to many different jobs. So company ID 13 has 6 different jobs available. And so as you're going through the data sheets, if I just open up the companies table, it's a little bit more obvious. One company can have many different jobs. ABA Solutions only has 1 job. Let's look at Accent Group. It has 3 jobs available. So these little plus signs, the expand buttons, are trying to show you the relationships between one record in the table on the one side and their many related records in the table on the many side. And that's actually accomplished by having a common field. It doesn't have to have the same field name, but it usually is, just for clarity. One common field that connects those records. So one industry can be related to many companies, and one company can be related to many jobs. Let's talk about this contacts table because it's not currently related in this relational database. And we have to figure out how we're going to connect it. So we have to understand its relationship to the rest of those tables. So we just start saying one-to-many relationships to ourselves until one makes sense and describes the business case. Can one company have many contacts in this database? Or does one specific job have many contacts? Well, that could be based on your business, and I could see an argument going either way, but for this database, we're going to have contacts related directly to companies. One company can have many contacts. So once we know the table that's on the one side, we're always going to grab that primary key field, and then we're going to relate it to the linking field in the mini table. But look through these fields in the mini table: contact ID, first name, last name, phone, and email. I don't have a linking field in the contacts table to connect it to the companies table. That's a very common problem. I have to create it. I'm going to right-click this field list, go into table design, add a new field, company ID. I'm going to give it a number data type because it's going to hook up with that AutoNumber that's created in the companies table. I'm going to do a little description here. I can remember why I added it. It's going to be the foreign key field to the companies table. And now I go back to this relationship, and now my one company can be connected to many contacts. Now I have a field to connect them to. To do that connection, I merely drag from one table to the next. I usually drag from the one table to the many table. It just makes more logical sense to me. And release, and I get the Edit Relations dialog box. It's telling me we're going to use this company ID field and the companies in the contacts table to make the connection. If I click Create here, I do get a relationship. But look, it's a kind of a wimpy relationship line because it does not have that infinity symbol over here on the mini side. You get the infinity symbol on a relationship. I'll double click this relationship when this Enforce Referential Integrity checkbox is checked. And so I'm going to go back to this relationship and I'm going to go ahead and check that enforce referential integrity checkbox that's one-to-many relationship and click OK. And now one company can be related to many contacts, and I have my one and infinity symbols clearly on the relationship line to show which table is clearly on the one side and which table is clearly on the many side. This enforce referential integrity checkbox is so important and lays down some rules on the relationship that are really going to help you maintain the accuracy and integrity of your data. It's so important that I'm going to do a separate screencast on that. But for now, I want you to know that the relationships between these tables are defined and created in the relationships window. And when they're created in the relationships window, they're already connected for you when you build queries, forms, and reports, which adds an enormous productivity boost to the overall performance of your relational database. I've seen a few databases out there in the real world where people haven't spent the time to relate their tables in proper one-to-many relationships at the relationships window, and instead relate their tables at query level. That will drag down the performance of your database by a significant amount. You do not want to do that. You want to set up your relationships in your relationships window, preferably before you ever start doing data entry in these one-to-many relationships with referential integrity enforced. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next screencast if you want to know more about referential integrity and how it improves the integrity of the data in your relational database. Thank you.